Chairman.
I call the Honourable Minister
Well,
Paula Bennett.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I will stand up and take a call. Particularly, I will stand up and take a call on child, youth and family within this, within social development, and particularly on vulnerable children. And we have been hearing a bit more about vulnerable children of late, which I personally think is a very good thing. I may not agree with everything that the Greens propose, but I actually celebrate them also being part of putting children on the agenda for this campaign period when perhaps people's interest is heightened and they want to take an interest in children and where we're heading and what we're doing. So I think that actually any members of Parliament in this House actually being interested in what direction we take and what we do, I think is really important. So on the record so far on what I have tried to tackle in the way of those, particularly those that are abused, neglected, sexually abused, physically abused, neglected, and have an increasing number of emotional abuse that we're seeing coming through, is try and manage how child, youth and family deal with them in the first instance. So I had concerns about social work practice when we came in. At some levels, I just felt that we have such awesome social workers throughout this country, but could you guarantee the same high quality of service standard across the country in every office you went to? I couldn't put my hand on my heart and say that. So it was really important to me that we looked at our own service. It was important on those links between police and health and NGOs and child, youth and family, that when we found those children who had been hurt and neglected, that we actually made sure we had the right response, that it was quick and that it actually incorporated not just families but extended families, those caregivers involved. I was appalled when I first came in at the re-abuse of children. So we knew their names, we knew where they lived, we knew who they were. We, as in New Zealand, when I say we had tried to care for them, and yet somehow they had been hurt again, and I found that absolutely sickening and absolutely appalling. So we did some stuff to really tighten that up. So multidisciplinary approach to any child that was hospitalised because of serious abuse. So then you are not just having one person decide on what happens to that child when you leave. You have a multidisciplinary, combining police, paediatricians, child, youth and family, some NGO organisations and everything else around the table. And that has made a difference, Mr Chairman. So a number of things around that. I wanted to look at teen houses and how we supported them better. So where do those teens that are really struggling and on the verge of losing their children go for parenting support and to have a roof over their head? So I'm about to open the last of those supported teen houses next week, I believe, in Gisborne, and I'm absolutely thrilled by them. So they can live there for 3 months, 6 months and up to a year in some circumstances. For some of them, I met a young woman the other day and it was her second baby. The first had been removed by her. We're very close to removing the second child, to be quite honest, through child, youth and family. But her living there for a good 8 to 10 months is a really good chance that she will bond differently and actually keep that baby. And I think that's kind of fantastic. So I wish we could have more. It is a goal of mine. I'm not sure this is when a minister should stand up and state their goals, but I do have a goal that we see more teen-supported houses throughout New Zealand and supporting people quite differently. I'd like to see, actually the ones I have seen have been run by Māori providers and others, but I would like to see perhaps how we do that differently in real partnership with iwi and help them, because they aren't cheap. So I could list a whole long list of things that we did around vulnerable children and trying to get that practice better, and then it came to the next stage. And the next stage is gnarly, to be honest. The next stage affects middle New Zealand. The next stage has the potential to affect people who do not abuse and neglect their children, because it could take funding away from them. It could mean when we share information about their children. And it's one thing to say that we want information shared on abused and neglected children and vulnerable children. It's quite another thing when you say that we might be sharing information about people who would not normally come to the attention of any services. I want to talk about mandatory reporting. What does that mean? We saw some evidence of it overseas where you had a particularly heightened awareness in some offices, and their thresholds were a lot lower, and so they had much more reporting. And does that work? And how do you actually cope with that as a workforce? Is it the right thing to do? Should we be taking resources away from other age groups and putting it into those those that are really young. These are really complicated issues, and New Zealand needs to debate them openly and in a way that really has their say involved in what this next big vital step is. I'm proud of the Green Paper on children.
Call the honourable member, Materia.